Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Jim Crane with you. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. Today I wanted to show you what you can do if you've got a favorite old leather messenger bag that has kind of lost its fluxy. It's kind of gotten very, very floppity with use, and it just simply will not stand up on its own anymore. And that is what has happened to this beautiful old bag. It's got a beautiful patina on it. I've used it now for 10 years. It's just one of my favorite bags. And I don't, when I carry it, I don't want to really think about, this thing falling on the concrete or something. I want to be able to just set it down and not worry about it. I don't want to have to set it down between my legs and balance it that way. So if you've got an old messenger bag like that, and it could be made from any kind of leather. This is vegetable tanned leather. It was a little bit stiffer when I got it. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was maybe a 7. Same with chrome tan. If you've got a chrome tan bag, they become a little more floppy sooner than the 10 years like this. They might get floppy within maybe 2 or 3 years of daily use. And if you've got an old bag like that and you want to, you don't want to stop using the bag, you want to keep using it, but you want to rejuvenate it a little bit and give it back a little bit of its fluxy, as I call it, then this video is for you. So this particular bag here, this is the same kind of leather, Horween Dublin, and I had the same issue with it. It had gotten so floppity from use. This bag I used mainly for air travel, and it had gotten so soft and floppity that it would constantly fall over, and I developed these little battle scars, and that doesn't bother me so much. I love an old battle scarred leather bag. I just think they get more and more attractive as they get older, but what I don't want to do is bend down all the way, and pick it up and stand it back up, or bend down all the way to pick it up and carry it away. I just want to reach down this far and pick it up and start moving. So I've modified this bag already, and so it will stand on its own quite simply. I don't have to worry about balancing it when I set it down, and it's more because I'm lazy and don't want to bend all the way down to grab the handle off the floor than it is for anything else. This bag, we're going to make those modifications too. And the modifications that we're talking about don't have to alter the bag in any way if you don't want. This modification can be done in a completely non-invasive way to the bag so that it can be reversed if you want to. If you know you're going to keep the bag, like this bag, both of these bags I'm just keeping forever. There's no way I would ever let these Norman Kahn bags go. I had Norm build these specifically for me, and he was kind enough to do that to my specifications, and I just love them. So these things I never am going to worry about, putting it on eBay or selling it on, Facebook or something. These are in my permanent collection, will never be sold. So you can modify them so that it can be undone if you do want to resell a bag, or you think you might resell a bag, or you can do it in such a way that it's more permanent. And this one I've made pretty much permanent, although it could be reversed, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But we're gonna modify this bag today. This beautiful old 16-inch Norman Kahn mail bag made from Horween Dublin that has just gotten so soft and flexible that I want to breathe a little bit of life into it. And the way we do that is we get ourselves a piece of 15-ounce raw vegetable tanned leather. This is going to be the basis for our modification, and I already know you guys are already ahead of me. What we're going to do is put a false bottom in the bag. And the bottom is going to go from basically this joint. If there was no seam here, if it was just a single piece gusset, you want it to go up about not quite halfway. You can go halfway, but maybe about 40% of the way up the gusset of the bag. So we're going to basically cut ourselves a strip of veg-tanned leather that's going to go from here around and up to this joint here. And we're going to lay it in the inside of the bag, and we're going to lay it inside the gusset. The gusset is, on most messenger bags, if they are sewn, the bag outside first, in other words, they build the bag inside out and then they turn it out, then you're going to have these seams on the inside, and there's a perfect little place in there to sandwich a piece of vegetable tanned leather, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll start with a 15-ounce piece of veg tanned leather. 15 ounce is going to be give you a pretty much permanent modification, as far as this is not going to become floppy. The bag is never going to start falling over again. If you use a thinner leather than this, then that little thin piece of leather might start itself to get floppy after a while, and you'll have to redo it. But with a piece like this, we'll not have to worry about that. This piece of leather, once I cut a strip out of it and lay it down in the gusset, it's always going to be nice and stiff like that. It's just, there's not enough weight you can put in the bag that would get this leather to start flexing and breaking down the structure of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is go out to the shop, and I'm going to cut about a 3 1/4 inch piece for this, and I've already measured from this point here around the bottom to this point, and it's 24 inches. So I've got this piece of veg-tanned leather already cut 24 inches wide, and I'm going to go cut a 3 1/4 inch strip out of it, because that's how wide the gusset is. And then we're going to set it down in there, and that will strengthen the bottom of the bag up, and it'll be almost like new, but we'll still retain the beautiful exterior characteristics of a well-used, broken-in messenger bag. So let's go out to the shop. Okay, so we already know what our measurements are. We know the bag is 24 inches, so we want it to be 24 inches long, and we know that width of the inside of that gusset is 3 1/4 inches, so we're going to cut a strip out. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take our measurements. Okay, so I need 3 1/4, which is right there. I'm just using a little awl to do that. Take the same measurement over here. Professor once told me, measure twice and cut once. Let's just make sure that that is right where we have it. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get a straight edge and scribe our line where we want to cut. Okay, so we've got our line, and I'll get a little cutting mat here. I could use a 30-inch cutting mat, but I don't happen to have one. And I'm going to need a straight edge as well. Now you can use a X-Acto knife, which most people have lying around. As long as you got a brand new blade in there, it is going to be a little bit harder to cut a big thick piece of leather with an X-Acto knife. So I recommend, if you have one, just using a rotary cutter, because this makes short work of it and it's a lot easier to control. Okay, so we're going to start our cut down on this end. And I'm going to have to move the mat, unfortunately, because I don't have a mat long enough. So what we'll do is go ahead and get it started. And just dig in like that and just run right along. And I want to back it up too like that. I'm going to move the piece of leather down. Make sure I'm still in alignment. Okay, and I am. We'll get it down in that groove that we started. And we'll finish the cut. Okay. Now that we have our strip of leather, it's going to sit in the bag like this. Okay, so I'm going to want to make this edge look a little bit better. So I'm going to ease over that edge. Okay, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. And I've got a little edging tool here that we'll use, and I'm just going to start on this end and just go right down like that. Okay, and I want to get that in too. And that just gives us a nice, kind of a nice finished edge. Now, at this stage, if you wanted to, you could dye this piece of leather, but the reason I like the raw veg-tanned leather is because it's so light. And if you've got a black bag or a really dark brown bag like the one we're modifying today, when you look down in the bag and you see this nice light piece of leather, it's so much easier to find the stuff that you have down in the bottom of the bag, okay? So if you wanted to, we could round over these edges. I've got some little jigs here, little cutting jigs that you can, little dies that you can cut that edge. But in this case, I don't think we really need to do that because this edge is going to be hidden in that inside of the gusset. So this is basically all we need right now. So let's go back and go ahead and insert it. One of the things I forgot that I want to do before is I want to measure the halfway mark because it's going to be easier to get this in the bag perfectly. So I'm going to go to 12 inches. I'm just going to put a little mark right there, and that way I know when I'm lowering this into the bag that that's the center of the bag, and I'll make note of the center of the bag as I'm inserting that. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so we've got our piece of leather cut and ready to be inserted, and I've got my little mark as to the halfway point because I'm going to want to insert that into the bag and match the halfway point of the bag with the halfway point on our strip of leather. And to do that, I thought I would use this stitch line here for the quick release clasp. And this point right here is halfway around the bag. Okay, and I can see it in here. And so that's where I'm going to start with my halfway mark, okay, which is right there. And I'm going to have to prop this up, and I can't exactly get a camera down in there to show you what I'm doing, but I'm going to lay this piece of leather in between this the stitch line here and that stitch line there, right in that little pocket there. Okay, this is a little bit fiddly because the leather is rather stiff, but I like to start with the back first. Get it into that back recess and then go around to the front and take care of that. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that in there. Okay, so now we've got that piece of leather tucked in there, as you can see, running between these stitch lines there. And it lightens up the bottom of the bag so it's easier to find stuff in the bright sunlight when you're trying to look down into a dark bag. And the best part is you haven't done any damage to the bag in any way. You haven't altered it. And now it will stand up. So we basically made this bottom part more rigid without changing any of the beautiful soft characteristics of the rest of the bag, the body of the bag. We have just reinforced this panel here. And now we can just set it down and it will just stand all on its own, okay? Now, if you wanted to make that more permanent, which you can do, you could do it the hard way by removing these rivets, cutting 3 holes on that inside strip of leather, and then redo the rivets, and that way that piece of leather is going to stay in there forever. Or you can do something a little less invasive, and that is you can just use a little brass plate like I did here. I put that piece of leather in this bag. This bag is fairly narrow, so it was always falling over, and I just love using this bag. So you can see I put that piece of leather in there again, tucked it in between those seams, and then to secure it, I just went ahead and put these little brass plates on, and these holes right here go right through that thick piece of leather. So you get a nice looking result. It is reversible. These are Chicago screws, so I could just unscrew them, but then I'd have 2 holes left there. But this is such a beautiful little bag. I know that this is going to be in my permanent collection, and I'm going to use it all the time. So this is another way to do it without having to redo rivets. Just go ahead and you can get these little brass plates on Etsy. You could have your name, you could have a special date, you could have a special place. But I just go ahead and use those and just some Chicago screws. And I actually, to get the hole in there, I drill it out, okay? Because I can't get a hole punch to get, you know, that angle, because it's just in an inaccessible spot. So you just mark out your holes, you know, offer up your plate, mark your holes with a little awl, and then just use a drill that out right through the outer piece of leather and that inner strip that we put in there, and then just secure it with some Chicago screws, and you are good to go. Okay, so that's an easy way to modify an old floppy mail bag or messenger bag that you have that you want to breathe a little bit more life into it. You're just going to stiffen up this part while the rest of the bag remains this beautiful, soft, supple, beautiful patina. There are some makers, for example, this one here, this is Baron Leatherworks, and he when he builds the bag, he puts a second bottom in it. Okay, so this bag already has that that second bottom stitched in. So you know, some makers will do that for you. This bag is never going to flop over because that's built in. But if you got a favorite old chrome tanned or veg tanned bag that you want to breathe a little more life into, go ahead and try this out. Take about 30 minutes, and the expense is going to be maybe $20 to do it. And then you've got another, you know, 10 years of life in this bag, and it still looks beautiful. You haven't altered it in any way, really, except you get some more useful life out of it. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with a review in a little while. Bye-bye.